Out today on the GCN Racing News Show, Dumoulin abandons Yates' haemorrhages time, and is it going to be the Roglic Show from start to finish? We look at 5 things we've learned so far from the Giro. We've also got the men's and women's tours of California, some very bad and very good news for women's cycling, the 4 days of Dunkirque, and the latest round of the UCI ParaCycling World Cup. First up though, 5 things that we've learned so far at the Giro. And number 1 on our list is that Primož Roglic used to be a ski jumper. Who'd have thought it? I jest, of course, but what we have learned this week is that he looks unstoppable. We haven't had a single mountain yet in 9 days, but despite that, Roglic is already in a commanding position, and one that'll be hard to topple him from. Time trials have bookended the first 9 days, and in both he's blitzed it. Yesterday, he put at least a minute into all of his GC rivals, leaving the overall standings from this year's contenders looking like this. His closest genuine rival for the overall, Vincenzo Nibali, is close to 2 minutes down already. Now, if Roglic was purely a time trial specialist that tries to hang on as best he can in the mountains, this could lead to an incredibly exciting second half of the race, but he's not. He doesn't really have a chink in his armour. He can also win mountaintop finishes, he can descend with the best, and he hasn't really had a bad day all season. It's left us, and presumably his rivals, scratching our heads and wondering what on earth anybody is going to do to be able to claw some time back. The only thing we can say is that anything can happen at the Giro d'Italia, last year being a prime example. This tweet from Killian Kelly sums things up well. The Giro is over. People who have never watched the Giro before, or who have had the last 3 years removed from their memories. Safe to say, there's an awful lot of racing still to be done. This race is far from over. Fingers crossed. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think the Giro is over before it's even really started? We've also learned that practicing bike changes will be at the top of Lotto Soudal's list of priorities after yesterday. Victor Campenaerts dropped his chain on his time trial bike with 1,500 metres to go, and it was panic stations all round. The mechanic tried to push him before he was on his bike. Campenaerts tried to do a cyclocross style remount, and then he found that he couldn't clip in, and he was in 53.11. What could go wrong did go wrong, and undoubtedly cost him the stage win, since Roglic would eventually beat the Belgian by just 11 seconds. Lessons to be learned all round here, but please spare a thought for the mechanic. Yes, he made mistakes, but so did Campenaerts as well. He'll feel as bad, if not worse, than anyone, and will have been heartbroken at what happened. We've also learned that there's no dominant sprinter at the race. Ackermann leads the points classification and has had 2 stage wins, but he's not had it all his own way. Caleb Ewan paid back his team for their efforts with a well-deserved win on stage 8. Viviani took a win on stage 3, only to be disqualified for the jury, having deviated from his line. That win was given to Gaviria, who has since abandoned with a sore knee. With 2 sprint stages expected over the next 2 days, it will be interesting to see if one rider emerges as the dominant sprinter. My bet is that Viviani will win at least one. I can't imagine him going home empty-handed. One of the big talking points from the first week was the crash and subsequent abandon of Tom Dumoulin. Winner here 2 years ago and runner-up last year, the Dutchman had obviously come into the race as one of the top favourites. However, a nasty crash on stage 4 saw him hit the deck, sustain a deep cut and bruising to his left knee, and ultimately headed home early. It's a big disappointment for him, his team, the race, and us as fans of the sport. However, it could well be to the benefit of the Tour de France. You'd imagine that once he's recovered and is back to full health, he'll be targeting the Tour 100%. And given how well he did last year, having already ridden the Giro, you wonder if he might go even better this time around. One thing is for sure, we could do with a few more thorns in the side of Team Ineos, and Dumoulin could well be the man we need to loosen their stranglehold on the race. And finally, we've learned, or at least had it confirmed, that the Giro is the toughest of all Grand Tours. Yes, the Tour may be harder to win, but the Giro can just grind you down. A part of that is down to the weather. Some years you get sun from start to finish, but others, like this year, you get rain almost every day. The riders have faced at least some rain on every stage so far, except ironically day 1, where the forecasted storms had led to the GC favourites starting early. But it's not just the weather, it's also the stages. Contrary to the Tour and the Vuelta, who have been shortening their stages over the years, the Giro stages remain long. 5 of the first 7 road stages have been over 200 kilometres long, with 3 of them close to 240. That, combined with the weather and the nature of the roads in Italy, which never seem as smooth or straightforward as France or Spain, will take its toll on the riders as the race progresses. And that's one of the reasons why we're confident in saying that anything can still happen in the final week. Moving on. The men's and women's tours of California also took place last week. Dunkerque Quickstep were back to their winning ways, taking 3 stages in a row with 3 different riders. Tour of Flanders revelation Casper Asgreen took a surprise stage on the climb to Lake Tahoe on day 2. Revi Camagna won the biggest margin I can remember for some time on the following day, coming home over 7 minutes clear of Ben King, whilst Fabio Jakobsen won the bunch sprint on day 4 on tubeless tyres too. More of that in the GCN Tech Show this week. The race had kicked off in Sacramento with a return to form for Peter Sagan, who continued his run of success at this race, but the GC all came down to Mount Baldy. Going into it in yellow, somewhat controversially, was TJ Van Garderen. The American had been given the same time as the winner the previous day, despite having been delayed by a crash and then going off course. There was then a mass pile-up just outside 3 kilometres to go, where ultimately as a rider, if it's inside 3 kilometres to go, you're given the same time as the winner. It's your safety zone. Van Garderen was delayed further here, but at the finish, the jersey was given to Dunkerque Quickstep's Casper Asgreen. But then they changed their mind multiple times before finally awarding the jersey to Van Garderen. The controversy, however, and the jury's decision is of course not Van Garderen's fault. Our question, though, is, was the furore surrounding the decision to award the American the jersey ultimately his undoing? We saw all come unravel for him when he was dropped on Mount Baldy, but had he been chasing the jersey rather than defending it, would that have ignited the fire in his belly? We'll never know. We saw a welcome return to form for Trek Segafredo's Richie Porte, who unfortunately suffered a mechanical towards the summit, but there was then a thrilling battle between EF Education first New Colombian signing Sergio Higuita and UAE's Tadej Pogačar, led to a stage win and a yellow jersey for another rising star from Slovenia. On the final stage into Pasadena, Case Bolt of Team Sunweb continued a great season with a sprint stage victory, while Pogačar finished safely in the bunch to become the youngest ever winner of a World Tour stage race at 20 years old. Having been given a free rein to mixed road and mountain bike races so far in 2019, Ander van der Breggen soloed to a great stage victory on stage 1, attacking on the final climb and coming in 18 seconds ahead of Elisa Balsamo of Valcar, who won the bunch kick. Defending champion and Bulls Dolman teammate Katie Hall then took a mountaintop finish victory on Mount Baldy, which left them first and second in the GC, with Ashley Moolman their closest challenger, but over a minute down. Van der Breggen had to deal with a frantic stage 3 to secure her second career California title, losing 3 of her teammates due to the ferocity of racing. It was a stage win for informed Italian Balsamo, who edged out Elena Sierra of Astana and Leanne Ganja of Hagen's Superman for the stage win. In the 6th day, 4 days of Dunkirk, we had 2 relegations and 2 days for Von Torini, who was then foiled for the stage win on the penultimate day by race leader Mike Turnison. Now, a lot has been said over the past month or so about the lack of TV coverage at this year's Women's Flèche Wallonne and Liège-Bastogne-Liège races. It's a requirement for all World Tour races to provide at least 45 minutes of live TV coverage. Quite rightly, you'd say, but ASO have responded to that by saying they'll pull these 2 prestigious races from the World Tour. Don't get me wrong, live TV is expensive, very expensive, if you're starting from scratch, that is. So it's difficult to fathom that when you already have everything in place for the men's race, why can you not then divert the resources to provide live coverage of the women's races? Perhaps more of a political issue than a sporting one. On a more positive note, even a welcome boost to the women's pro peloton, it was announced last week that Denmark, Norway and Sweden will play host to the new Battle of the North race in 2021. The new race will cover 10 stages in 11 days and is a project born out of the Tour of Norway, the World Tour race in Garda in Sweden and the Danish Cycling Federation. Over the past few decades, Scandinavian riders and their races have enjoyed a strong support in their home countries, so this project tipped as the Women's Tour de France France should, we expect, hit the ground running. With live TV, we expect hit the ground running. With live TV cited as a major part of the race, the teams will know the organisation well, which should give them the confidence in the quality of the event. In recent years, the Women's Tour and the Tour of Yorkshire in the UK have both shown how new events can gauge huge traction both along the route and on TV. We caught up with Great Britain's Lucy Garner, well known for her back-to-back Junior World Road titles and who now rides for the Norwegian High-Tech Products Pro team, just to get Lucy's thoughts.
I'm really excited and my Norwegian team are really excited, and I think it's just a positive step that needed to happen, especially over the past few days where we've heard the ASO are kind of moving further away from women's cycling. This is something to really look forward to. Each stage is going to be broadcasted live, which is great news, and I'm really excited to kind of check out the routes and see how it develops.
Not content with the dominant winter in cyclocross, Mathieu van der Poel then went on to ignite the Spring Classics with a campaign that ultimately ended with one of the most thrilling finishes perhaps ever at Amstel Gold. This road success, however, didn't divert him from his chosen path, and he moved on to his third discipline of the year by jumping on board of his mountain bike to try and qualify for the Tokyo 2020 Olympic mountain bike race. After taking the short track at Alstad in Germany, the first round of the UCI Mountain Bike World Cup, he then finished a runner-up in the cross-country to inform Matthias Flückiger and then take the lead in the World Cup and ultimately qualify for the Tokyo Games already. Mathieu has already muted that he'll have a crack at a Grand Tour post-Tokyo. Now, I'm sure that's something you can't wait to see as much as us. The ParaCycling Road World Cup moved from Italy to Ostend in Belgium for round 2. With the third and final round not until August in Canada, all of the competitors were looking for a much welcome boost in confidence going into the break. With time trials and road races taking place over the course of the event, there were some standout performances from the likes of Story Racing's multiple world champion Katie Toft, who doubled up in the C1 time trial and road race. The USA's Ryan Boyle also did the double in the men's T2 trike, while teammate and world champion Sean Morelli continued her dominance in the WC4 class, taking the road race ahead of former swimmer Hannah McDougall of Australia and Catel Alençon of France. There was a strong display of team tactics in the men's C3 road race, where Ben Watson, ably backed up by Finn Graham, Simon Price and Matt Robertson, took a solo win ahead of fellow countryman Jaco van Gas, with Chris Bosmans of Belgium preventing a GB whitewash of the podium, edging out Finn Graham, who finished 4th. Irish world champion Katie George Dunleavy with her pilot Eve McChrystal were again on great form, taking the time trial and road race in the tandem events. The progress of the Irish team since the Rio Paralympics has been phenomenal, both on the road and on the track, so watch out for the emerald green in the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics. In the handbike relay, Paralympic champions Italy, somewhat surprisingly, decided not to take to the start line, while the USA came through to take gold ahead of Germany and Belgium. All in all, the riders came away from Belgium singing the praises of the positive atmosphere and the quality of the organisation, leading to the hope that the ParaCycling World Cup Series can expand to other regions in future years. Don't forget, it's Italy month here on GCN. If you would like to get your hands on some Italy-inspired merchandise, you can go to globalcyclingnetwork.com/shop. If you also want to see what happens behind the scenes at a Giro d'Italia time trial, check out this video where we followed Vincenzo Nibali of Bahrain Merida on the opening day. Have a great week. More from the GCN Racing News Show. From me, Martin McDonald. Bye for now.